I will continue moving us forward by introducing Omri Boehm with The Binding of Isaac, a Theology of Disobedience. Omri.
All right. Consider this well-known command. Take your son, your only son, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there for a burnt offering. Here's the question: must Abraham obey his God? The story of the binding of Isaac is familiar. If not for the intervention of the angel, Abraham would have killed his son. Here's a text of that famous moment on the mountain. And Abraham bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But an angel of Jehovah called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do any harm to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. The theological message is clear. Obedience to God precedes ethics. In Judaism, the theology of obedience has come to symbolize the core of Jewish existence. In Christianity, Abraham's obedience prefigures the crucifixion. It is because Abraham was willing to sacrifice his only beloved son, Isaac, that God actually sacrificed his only beloved son, Jesus of Nazareth. But I'd like to argue that these theologies of obedience reflect a profound misunderstanding of the biblical text. Using philological tools on which I cannot expand in a minute or in 3 minutes, I've shown that the verses in which the angel of Jehovah appears, allegedly stopping Abraham at the very last moment, just before he kills Isaac, were in fact interpolated into the text by a later biblical editor. Without these verses, you discover what we may call the original story of the binding of Isaac, and it is one very different from the one that you have known. So here's a famous moment on the mountain again, but without the angel. And Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order, and he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But then Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in a thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. Abraham sacrifices a ram instead of Isaac on his own initiative. Biblical faith, by contrast to Jewish or Christian theology, conceived the relation to God, that is, to the absolute authority of the Almighty, as one of radical disobedience. I'm done.